The following Connects program is produced in partnership with the Twin Platte Natural Resources District.
I can't think of a better challenge to take on than try to better measure water so we can conserve it.
Nebraska has some of the best water resources in the world for farming. They make agriculture the state's economic driver. But the abundance shouldn't be taken for granted or mismanaged. Information about water use is critical.
We want them to understand what they're doing and save our natural resources and be more efficient at what they do.
Farming success requires many things. Between planting a crop in the spring and harvesting it in the fall, sunshine provides energy. But something else is absolutely necessary.
Water is the big make or break as far as yield potential. It is one of the more important things that we manage.
What this allowed us to do, Dan, was really get a handle on our costs and really put it into the value of the water.
Where the North and South Platte rivers come together, a cutting-edge water data management program is helping area farmers manage water during the growing season. Historically, the amount of water irrigated hasn't been known until after harvest.
It's groundbreaking. It is being looked at across the world as a way to manage groundwater and manage surface water.
The better your data, the better your management.
The data program depends on collaboration among farmers, the Twin Platte Natural Resources District, and professional partnerships.
This is just a great way leveraging some technology that's already in existence.
It's in their best interest to protect that aquifer as well as in the state's best interest.
Using less water lowers expenses for farmers and helps other water users throughout the state.
It's the drinking water for the major urban areas of Nebraska, and it's for the habitat. That's very important to all of Nebraskans.
Hopefully when you educate and inform people, they will make different decisions if it's needed versus being forced or regulated into having to do that. That's kind of what this program was set up to do, is to give them tools and information.
With the goal of keeping decision-making on the farm, the Water Data Management Program provides near real-time information in an easy-to-use format. Capitalizing on technology and partnerships, the program is using data to conserve water. It's a common spring scene throughout Nebraska. At the McFeeder's farm near Gothenburg, it's time to plant corn. They keep an eye on things they can control.
Water, fertilizer, seed, all of that, you know. You want to be right in that sweet spot. You don't want to use too little, too much, either one.
It costs dollars to pump water from the aquifer. So as far as financial sustainability, it's important to us.
The McFeeders and other farmers have joined the Twin Platte Natural Resources District, utilizing technology that gives them better information about how much water is being used to grow this corn.
It's part of telling our story, really, in a way, that we're being good stewards of our water.
We're using the electrical power that comes through here off of our meters and then calibrating the wells and then using that through an algorithm to deliver that to the producers.
Many miles away, Rorik Paulman explains the setup at one of his center pivot irrigation systems. He feels the program gives him timely water use information on his farm near Sutherland.
Historically, you irrigated to what a trusted advisor, a crop consultant would ask you to do. And then you went out with a hand probe and you validated that decision. Now, with the water data program, what we're looking at is real-time withdrawals.
The water data program is a way for our producers or our growers, even landowners, to know what they're applying using their groundwater well in a real-time fashion.
Irrigation costs are approximately 15 to 20% of growing expenses annually. Depreciation and repair of equipment increase with more use too.
On this particular field, we've pumped as little as 4 inches all the way up to 22. Well, you go for 2 hours pumping at 700 gallons a minute. Do the math. It's a lot of water that you could have shut off on. We can taper off those applications in anticipation of a rain event. I love water, I love farming, and Twin Platte's asking you to just take a look and understand what's going on, and in real time. It's a big deal.
We've also gone and added a telemetry system to all of our pivots so that from my smartphone, I can control and monitor basically anything.
Even a typical center pivot has become a hub of technology on the farm. New technologies have revolutionized the vocation in the past decade or so.
Pivot telemetry allows us to monitor and control our pivots.
All kinds of things that are electronically controlled and wireless. It's just gone crazy.
Probably one of the things that excites us the most about the industry that we're in is there's just something new every year.
The Water Data Program makes it much easier for farmers to monitor water use during the growing season. It's more useful than not knowing until after the growing season.
These farmers realize the need to manage their water. It's going to affect whether they continue to pump in the future or not. So there was thoughts of offset water, allocations to farmers. But there was a group that kept saying, I'm not sure we have enough data to make those decisions.
4 generations of McFeeders have farmed in this area. A good groundwater source is a constant, but irrigation has evolved.
When my dad farmed and irrigated, it was open-faced ditches and siphon tubes and things like that.
Today, irrigation canals are close by as Clark and Carey continue the operation growing food-grade corn and soybeans.
When we were trying to implement, these technologies in order to better schedule our irrigation, there was kind of a clash of the generations. It does take a while to get familiar with and trust the technology.
Farmers have control over who they allow to see their data in this program. NRD receives only aggregate data, not how much individual farmers use. The NRD's interest is on how much water the entire district is pumping. That helps it develop its management plan for meeting state and other requirements.
Those dashboards are only for their use and for their eyes, and we don't see that. What the Twin Platte NRD needs is the aggregate data that's being developed from this program. And then that aggregate data is what goes into the groundwater models.
Diversion dams provide water to farm fields from rivers as they have for decades. But old data isn't ideal. Before this program, much of the water use information dates back to 1997.
Farmers, irrigators, growers, they're not using the amount of water that they used in 1997. I mean, they've evolved, and they're the best stewards of our resources, of our groundwater and our soil.
We can show the state what our growers are doing, not using as much water as the old models had predicted.
To be as effective as possible, the once voluntary program is mandatory by the NRD as of 2022.
If you look at the alternative, which is to not participate in the project, not do this project, down the line, we would probably have to look at pumping restrictions. So it really makes a lot more sense to have, producers be able to manage that.
We put on a lot of mechanical meters as we were putting in pivots. That's really all there was, is mechanical meters, but their limitations were soon known.
Even if they had a mechanical water meter, they really didn't know how much water they were using until the end of the growing season.
To take water management to the next level, knowing water use in real time, or as close as possible, is necessary. By connecting to the electric use meter already at pumps, readings every 15 minutes provide a stream of data when center pivots are running.
We know what's going on because it takes quite a bit of energy to pull the water to the top of the ground.
It was a new method using basically the runtime of a well, primarily from electric meters, and determining how much water was being used. You know the flow rate of that well, and when that well is running, you can determine how much water is being pumped from the aquifer and how much water is being used by the crop.
We have almost 1,000 connections, so 1,000 wells who are reporting and working.
Twin Platte NRD has signed up a number of farmers for the Water Data Program at workshops or during office hours in North Platte.
They go online and they enter their crops, their tillage, their practices that they're doing. And that helps the NRD because that becomes the raw data that is entered into the model.
You own all your data, and that we won't do anything unless you give us express consent to show it.
When data starts coming in from flow and power meters at about 1,000 wells, algorithms determine how much water was pumped. The data from a day's use of irrigation is available to farmers first thing the next morning.
It was even some older guys said, we have to do something different. The value of my land is tied up completely in the value of the water, and if we can't irrigate, we got a problem.
When this came along and this started showing us not only our monthly use, but also our cumulative use in real time, that made a huge difference on how we looked at what our water use was. We know exactly what it costs us to pump an acre inch of water. So we know in terms of budgeting, and in fact, the pivot is just now starting. So it's coming on board.
Hallman's operation includes popcorn, potatoes, and other crops. That calls for close monitoring with regular visits to the field, but also in the office. He wants the best tools in place to pass the operation to his son and eventually grandsons.
And the millions of gallons that we pump, 1 or 2% is significant. And so capturing this at that level and being able to start to move the needle and changing your behavior, huge deal. Yeah. Huge.
It's nice to be able to just have all that at your fingertips. I mean, you don't have to go around and stick a probe in each field, maybe even multiple times per field, and you can make decisions a lot quicker.
It gives that farmer information they'd never had before in real time. They now have a dashboard that they can go to. That dashboard is on their computer. That dashboard is on their cell phones. And they can see for every irrigated field they have how much water they're applying.
If we do need to shut them off, you go down the list, and you don't have to spend 2 or 3 hours driving through the mud trying to shut them off. So there's just a number of ways that real-time data is so crucial to what we do.
The Twin Platte area includes one of the world's best groundwater resources. The Ogallala Aquifer helps make agriculture productive and profitable. But the abundant resource has perhaps been too appealing.
River flows were at a lower level than they were historically because of the water that was not getting to the river from groundwater development. We have to turn the Platte River Basin to a fully appropriate condition where groundwater is not affecting surface water and surface water is not affecting groundwater. There need to be 7,700 acre-feet of water put into the river to get the water back to a fully appropriated condition.
Over-appropriated simply means wells within the Twin Platte NRD are negatively impacting Platte River stream flows. So the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources required the NRD to create an integrated management plan.
We do these annual evaluations to look at water supplies and water demands. And if we see that there isn't a balance between those two, then that kicks off an integrated management planning process.
Our integrated management plan requires us to find offset water for depletions to the river. We either have to find other sources or we have to limit groundwater irrigation. But we don't have a good record of, what has been pumped.
An integrated management plan is where the groundwater and surface water are managed as one hydrologically connected resource, that they're interconnected and one affects the other.
And then if we don't find enough offset water, then we're going to have to look to our groundwater irrigators to put regulations on them.
Twin Platte met the IMP requirement in 2019. 7,700 acre-feet, which means 7,700 acres covered in water 1 foot deep, was replaced in area streams.
But for the second 10 years, our requirements jumped to 25,000. That was almost triple through no fault of ours.
The Twin Platte NRD Board, an elected body, wanted better information than the 1997 water modeling numbers. That led to the Water Data Program for its second 10-year IMP.
So the NRD sought out projects, programs, ways to keep our growers out of regulations. Through the IMP process, we used local stakeholders. So it was on their recommendations that we find a different way.
The value to the Twin Platte NRD is that we can update our groundwater models and have better results of how much shortages the groundwater is causing to the river.
So this is where the NRD is really focusing on building a stronger foundation of data and information about water use and making those critical management decisions in an over-appropriated basin.
Influencing a decision during this season is what's important. That's the piece that then allows you to have a legacy of water. It creates this reassurance that you are a good steward of the resource.
I think it's a project that's going to benefit us in the future, having the data recorded and know exactly what we are doing.
It's obviously helpful to both us as producers and the people that are in charge of helping us steward, these groundwater resources.
Additional partners make the Water Data Management Program work. Much of the infrastructure was already in place, though. Local well drillers provide information on how much water each well pumps. Sharing energy use data from electric meters required growers to request public power districts like Custer, Dawson, NPPD, and Midwest to provide the growers' data to GISC or Twin Platte NRD.
Every 15 minutes, this clock is telling you, I'm on. The way we knew that is we knew it takes quite a bit of juice to bring water to the top of the ground. And if a farmer were to look at his totals, he'd see the day prior total. So he could see what was actually pumped the day before.
About 25% of pumps use fuel, not electricity. Another partner provides a wireless device to send data from those locations.
The pump monitors that are deployed in the Twin Platte NRD Water Data Program are telling us when the non-electric wells are running. So it's telling us when they turn on and when they turn off. Very simple device, and that's communicating to the network that's deployed throughout the Twin Platte district.
Page Wireless was beginning to develop what they call a LORAN system across the state for wireless interconnection.
LoRaWAN stands for Long Range Wide Area Network. We see really long ranges of connectivity, sometimes up to 30 miles, and it's designed for small data packets. This device is battery powered on standard C-cell batteries and should have a battery life of 3 to 5 years. The subscription fees are about $2 a month compared to $30 a month, which you typically see on cellular telemetry. It is wired into the pump panel, and it's telling us when the pumps are turning on and off real time. Pump monitors and pump panels aren't streaming video, right? You only need to know if they're on or off, and the technology was designed just for that.
All right, so here we are in the Groundwater Manager's application, looking at the manager's dashboard. This is the page where all of the data that's collected through the project comes together.
Sitka, based in Portland, Oregon, works with data management systems that focus on the work done by water and land management agencies.
So it's really clear that having more data is always going to provide the opportunity for better decision making. Bringing these data sources together allows the participants, both the districts and the growers, to collaborate and manage the groundwater in a way that's sustainable.
The data is also sent to another partner, Olson, based in Lincoln.
This is all of the data that's coming in from flow meters, pump monitors, and from electrical usage. I manage a lot of the data that we get off of the Page Wireless devices, and I keep track of it all through a dashboard online. I think informing the user about their water use, influences their behavior. If they know how much water they're using, they can start to reduce.
Morton works with Olson's groundwater evaluation toolbox.
So, the data comes into the dashboard, it translates it into really easy to understand graphs and charts, and we go from there. Yeah, so this is Rorik's place, one of his pivots, and it looks like we're getting data from the electrical usage at this location. And all of these spikes here mean that it was an irrigation event, so he was pumping pretty heavily. The alternatives to this program, involve putting a flow meter on every single well across the district, which is just not cost effective. You have to hire staff members to go out and read those flow meters.
Growers Information Service Co-op, also known as GISC, based in Texas, passes along the information from Olson. Farmers receive it in a dashboard.
When we're in a project, we're going to be representing the farmers. So anything we build is going to be something he's going to view.
They're the one that's taken all this data from the electric smart meters and from the continuity meters on these diesel wells.
Once we take all the pieces and we connect them together, they just pull up on their phone or their iPad and they can see what they're pumping.
Kind of helps dial in where you want to be on water usage. Just enough, but not too much.
15 years ago, my use probably was 20 to 30% higher than this, but it is significantly less as a result of the tools and the process that we go to manage water.
All of this data gets aggregated into a single file that we then update the groundwater model with. And that gives us an indication to what degree the irrigation pumping has been affecting the stream so that we can quantify offset requirements for stream flow depletions.
Putting together all the water use on every field helps the NRD know what it needs to do to meet its IMP.
And that aggregate data is what goes into the groundwater models.
I think the overarching goal of the program is to just quantify the water use that's happening in the Twin Platte. They've never been able to do that before. It's always been a modeled estimate of water use, and now we're getting real data, which is huge. It's a huge step.
Data in and of itself doesn't provide value. We often think of a spectrum from data to knowledge to insight to wisdom. And with all of the data pieces that are coming together, starting to turn that data into actionable intelligence that can provide insights that wouldn't otherwise be available without all of these data sources coming together and being turned into useful decision-making opportunities.
Miller estimates the district's annual cost for the program is $500,000, less than the $2 million alternative of requiring water meters to be installed throughout the district. The goal is 100% of irrigators participating who have no upfront costs for the most complete data possible. Other Nebraska NRDs are paying attention.
I know that they're watching with very keen interest to see how a program like this could work in their NRD rather than a metering program, which can cost millions of dollars.
If we can do it on this scale, it can be even blown up farther. So a state like California who's having issues, maybe that gives them hope that there's a way we could take this program and make it work. Or Australia has called over and said, how do you guys do this?
I think in a way we're affecting the course of where water management will go, where we're doing something new and innovative, rather than being scared of adopting a new practice. I think we're kind of excited about it instead.
Back on the farm where this all starts, the program helps farmers protect a resource, save money, and grow food. Farmers like Paulman won't stop eyeballing the conditions of their crops, but as farming technology evolves, they hope to make better water use decisions.
Lincoln relies on the Platte River for their drinking supply. I now understand why we may or may not have a hydrological impact.
With data from the entire district, the Twin Platte will know if it's meeting requirements. But the impact goes beyond the district. The Platte continues eastward, providing water to the most populated areas of Nebraska.
That water that's in the river flows through the entire length of Nebraska. It flows over the Lincoln well field. It flows over the Omaha well field. It provides habitat across the state.
We need food, there's no doubt. And from a perspective of someone in Lincoln, it's huge because this is how we need to manage water, where we make sure we get the best use of it.
As we get more and more people on the earth and need to take better care of our resources, and we actually have knowledge about what we need to do that. So it's really an advantage for us to know and be able to measure things.
With better management of an important resource, farmers may be more in control of their own destinies.
We're allowed to decide still, what our management practices are. I always say that local decisions are best made locally, and I think that's true, especially with water.
The information that you gain from this is applicable to your farm, and it will help the NRDs keep them out of regulations.
We think it's going to be an innovative game changer as far as generating this water use data for the grower and for our groundwater models.
I think their solution is really pushing the envelope of what other agencies of similar scale have accomplished, but the need to protect the resource and manage it in a sustainable way is common throughout Nebraska, the U.S., and the world.
This Twin Platte data program, it'll bring about more research, more ideas. Young men and women, we're asking them to reinvest in us. What a way to keep them at home.
They understand that we're putting, if you will, the future in their hands. They have control of what's going to happen in the Twin Platte NRD.
That is a lot of water. When you're looking at over 300,000 irrigated acres and you can save an inch, the math is easy to do. So why not measure it better? Why not measure it in real time and deliver that data in real time to help with those decisions?
I just think this will show people in bigger communities or towns that, these farmers, this is their livelihood. They're very progressive.
Really, it enables us to make good decisions at the time rather than in retrospect.
As we've said, you can't manage what you don't measure.
It's important to me to continue the legacy that my family's established here, and obviously water is a huge part of that.
I mean, we have this coolest system ever. Nebraska is a rural cooperative state, and we're building on a backbone that connects every motor, and it collects data in microseconds. I mean, for crying out loud, it was a no-brainer to do a well test and match it up to the electrical records. Whoa, what a powerful tool. But it's another way of collecting the data and making better decisions.